Do I look lit from within? It's because I am. Hello. Let me get my iPad so we can talk. This is actually a really good setup. Wow, okay. It has been a hot minute since I have seen you. And you know, that is because life just really kicked me in the ass for the past few months, and I just didn't have enough time or energy really to be putting many more videos out on the internet. And that is okay, you know, because this year I'm back and I'm excited about it. I have a few updates to share, obviously. Number one, our wedding is happening this year, so I'm gonna be busy with that. Number two, we have moved. You can probably tell that. I have a really amazing new office setup in here. It's like a little sunroom, and I have natural lighting and this beautiful desk shelf combination behind me, and I'm so happy about it. It's perfect for my videos. Obviously, this is like a really good setup right here. And also, I got into grad school. I don't know if that was, no, it wasn't something that I had updated about yet because I got it in November, but I'm starting my master's. I'm going to be getting a master's in library science to become a certified professional librarian in the state of Georgia, because apparently that's something you have to do. So I'm really excited about that. I'm starting in 2 days on Monday, the 13th, which is super fun and exciting, and I can't wait to update you guys about that. I'm also looking for a new job. Fingers crossed, I have some interviews at the library. I want to keep working at a library, so we're working on that. Matthew started a new job, which is why we moved. And so far I really like where we're living. It's pretty much like, I pretty much moved home. Like, this is the area that I grew up in. So it's really cool. And yeah, those are just a few things I'm really excited about for this year. So I have a lot of really good ideas, including a reading vlog. Let's get into what we're really here to talk about. I need to recap my 2024 for y'all because I've been absent, and I was able to talk about most of what I read in 2024 on my channel, which is great. But I think there's still a lot of things, obviously, I can't, you know, I would sit here and talk for hours and hours and hours. I'm gonna share my top 24 books of 2024. I definitely had like a very solid top 10, but then I had a whole lot of honorable mentions, and so I decided to make it top 24 of 2024. And I feel really good about the list. I'm also going to share some of the disappointing books that I read because I know y'all saw a lot of it, but you didn't see all of it, and there are definitely some titles I feel like I want to talk about now that the year is over that I just wasn't super impressed by. And then I also want to share the books that I DNF'd because there's a chance I might be trying to pick some of them back up this year. But yeah, we're just going to go through those really quick, and then I'm going to talk to you about my top 24 books of 2024. And then at the end of this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about my 2025 reading goals, and that's it. So first, I want to talk to you about the books that I DNF'd in 2024. So I'm just gonna go through this list and kind of give you a reason why I DNF'd. I don't really think I need to go super in depth in this section of the video, but I just want to share with you some of the books that I did not finish. So this is not in order of when I DNF'd them because I honestly don't remember. But number one, we have The Deadly Occupants. I definitely remember reading that in October. I was inspired to pick this up by Heather McLary, and somebody else read this too. I think maybe it was Destiny or somebody, but I just really did not like the writing, and this, I don't remember at what point I DNF'd it, but most of what I had read was just like a romance, but it was like a bad romance. And this is supposed to be like a horror thriller book, and I got the vibes, but it just, the writing was not good. So I did not want to finish it. And I did spend money on this book, so that was kind of sad, but oh well. Then I have 3 books that were NetGalleys that I did not finish. And I might, like I said, I might get to them, except for this first one, which is Firebird. This one, I almost finished it. I think I got to like 75%, but I just like was not motivated to finish it at all. I thought this was going to be a little bit different than it was. This whole book was just basically about this, how this girl was a slave to this guy. And I did just really not like that. And they started to have a romantic relationship together and like this connection. And I just really didn't like that dynamic. It was set in ancient Rome, which was like kind of the whole reason why I wanted to read it. And there was also like this interesting dragon shifting type of thing going on. But that just got lost to the plot, and I don't really even know what the plot was, but most of it was just about how this girl was a slave, and there was like this power dynamic between them that I didn't like. And then we have Under Lock and Key, which I thought I was going to read before it came out, and then I just wasn't interested in it right now. I didn't really get very far in it at all. I think I read the first chapter, and then I DNF'd it. So yeah, I don't know, that one might be coming back up this year. And then The God's Time Forgot. This is actually a really anticipated read for me because I'm following the author on TikTok and Instagram, and I was really excited to get an early copy. But again, this one was just not really hitting for me. Like, it wasn't the type of book that I wanted to be reading. And when I got into it, I get what's supposed to be happening. It's kind of slow. At the beginning at least. It's set during sometime in the 1800s, but there were a few kind of racist things that the author was writing. I'm not saying, going so far as to say that this is what the author's views are, but I think in the second chapter, from the male's perspective, they're calling him, he's Irish, and they're calling him these names that are really, I was not a fan of. Just, that was something that kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. And I get that it's a historical book, but I don't know, just the tone and the way that it was approached was just not for me. So again, I might come back to this later when I'm more in the mood for a historical romantasy, but right now it just wasn't my thing. And then we had Hollow Heathens. This was another one that I read in October. Again, I just wasn't like, I don't really know. Heather prompted me to pick this book up again. The vibes were there. I didn't really care at all about the female main character. And then I started to kind of pick up on the vibe that this was going to be like a very intense fantasy type of vibe, and there's like more books in the series, and I just didn't really want to get involved in all of that. And the writing didn't impress me very much, so it just wasn't pulling me in like I thought it was going to, and so I ditched it. And then we have The Intersectional Environmentalist. This is by, oh my god, I can't remember her name right now, but I follow her on Instagram, and I really like her Instagram account, so I wanted to read this book. And I thought it was a little bit dense, and it just wasn't, it kind of read like a textbook to me, so I just wasn't super interested in like sticking it out, and I didn't want to put my time and energy into that. However, I do think that this book is going to be worth a read. It's probably something I need to purchase though. Another reason why I DNF'd it was because my library hold was up on it, so I had to send it back. I might need to purchase it and then just kind of keep it on hand to read. Similarly to this book, Body Neutral by Jessie Nealand, this is another one that I DNF'd, but I didn't really include it on this list because obviously I own this book and I'm still reading it in the process of getting through it. I don't even know where I am in this, but this is a really, really good book that I'm not actually like just putting down. I just can't like read it, sit and read it. Like, this is gonna be like a project book for me, you know? Similar to that one. Then we have One of Us is Dead. by Geneva Rose. This one just wasn't super interesting to me. I listened to a few hours of it on audio and the plot was just not getting anywhere, and it was just kind of drama between all of these Buckhead moms, and there was nothing about a murder or anything. It just wasn't very intriguing to me, so I put it down. The Emperor and the Endless Palace. This one was another audio read for me. I just was having a really hard time following the plot. There's a lot of different things going on. There's different points of view. And I think this could be a great read. I didn't feel invested enough to keep going. It was just kind of overwhelming. Like, I wasn't able to focus on the story very well. And I will kind of put that on me, but I haven't had any interest in like wanting to pick it back up again since then. So maybe it's just not for me. Illuminae was another one I was really excited to get into. It's a very thick book, and again, it's something that takes I think a lot of, not necessarily like brain power, but it just takes a lot of focus because there's a lot of different things going on. And I just found that I wasn't in the mood to read it. Like, I'm not usually in the mood to read sci-fi anyway, so I just wasn't super like connected with it, and I didn't want to finish it. Then we have Fireborn. What is that one? Oh yeah, Fireborn, another audiobook. The narration was good. This was something that I picked up after I finished When the Moon Hatched, I think. I wanted another like dragon book, and this is a dragon book. And again, this one with the plot, I just was having a really hard time following what was going on, and I don't know why. I think maybe I was just distracted while I was reading it. This is another one where it has kind of multiple points of view and perspectives, and it's definitely it's not high fantasy, but it's like, you know, it takes a little bit more focus than just like a romantasy. So again, I was just kind of losing interest with that one. Same with Feybound. That was not an audiobook, that was a physical one. I read the first few chapters of it and I did not feel connected to the characters. It did not really seem like it was going to be interesting. This one is kind of, it was kind of marketed as a romantasy, but it was like the first few chapters were really just like politics and world building, and I just wasn't really into it. So I put it down. But let me know if I should pick it back up again, because the writing was good. It was just a little bit too dense for me at the time. The last three I feel kind of bad about. Masters of Death by Olivia Blake. I was enjoying this audiobook. I listened to probably about half of it. I liked the narration. The characters were funny, but it was just not going anywhere. I think it was a little bit too meandery, and I don't really know where the plot was going. We just kept introducing these characters and motivations, and like there was just so many different things going on. I couldn't understand how it was all gonna come together, and maybe I should have just stuck with it, but I was just getting bored, and I was just not having a great time anymore. And I think the narration was starting to get a little bit annoying to me, I think. And so I just stopped reading it. Maybe I'll pick it up again. I don't know. Maybe I need to just read it, like physically. Lightlark, another one, I was really interested in at first. This one I think I just DNF'd because I was reading it a few weeks ago at the end of 2024, and I was enjoying it, but I wanted to read other things more, and I wanted to prioritize finishing those things more than I wanted to prioritize finishing Lightlark. I didn't really care about the end of Lightlark very much, so that's why I DNF'd it. I could definitely see myself picking this book up again, for sure. Again, I might want to like actually physically read it. It is interesting. I was like invested in the story, but just not enough to be like, I have to know what happens at the end. And I also kind of felt like we weren't going to get that because there's 2 more books in this series out right now, and I just didn't have, I didn't want to commit to reading those 2 books. So. And then finally we have Normal People. by Sally Rooney. This is not a book that I'm going to DNF forever. I think none of these books are, except probably like Deadly Occupants maybe. This is one of my like more anticipated reads like ever, because Sally Rooney is either an author that you really love or you really do not. And I think I need to start with another book by her, maybe Intermezzo. It's gotten really, really good reviews. I just was not in a good place, I think, to be reading that. It was making me sad, and I didn't want to be sad when I was reading it. I wasn't a big fan of the characters. I thought they were acting very childish and not nice to each other. And I know that that is part of the book, and it's part of the plot, and that's like the whole point. But I just wasn't like, I just really didn't want to read it. It was not putting me in a good mood. I appreciate Sally Rooney's writing. And again, I think with Sally Rooney, I just need to pick up another one of her books first and then see how I feel. And then I can go back to normal people later when I feel a little bit more ready for it. So those are the books that I DNF'd in 2024. It's a long list, but I'm trying to get better at DNFing books because I just don't have time. I don't have enough time to read bad books. I want to be spending my time reading books that are good and make me happy, and that is really just the long and the short of it, especially this year, because I'm going to talk about this a little bit later, but I just don't have time. I don't have time for it. So now we'll get into the disappointing books of 2024. And again, I'm not going to dive too deep into these because this video would be hours long, but I just want to mention them. And again, these are not in any particular order. I'm going to start with The Familiar though. This was one that I read, I think in October or November, one of those months. I love Leigh Bardugo. I really, really enjoyed everything I've read by her, which admittedly is only the Six of Crows duology and 9,000 Hellbent so far, but I really enjoyed those so far. I really, really love both of those. The Familiar is something super different from her. It's a historical fantasy kind of it's not a vampire story. It's like a witch type story type of thing. No, I'm not alone in saying this. It just really didn't hit for me. I was expecting more from an author that I love so much, and I know that this is a departure from her like more out there fantasy. This is a little bit more realistic, historical. Again, with this one, the plot was just all over the place. I didn't really know what we were supposed to be learning, what we were supposed to be rooting for exactly. The main character was just not very memorable at all, and neither was the love interest. I just didn't really like feel much for the characters like I normally do with her books. The setting was okay. I mean, the writing was good. I do like her writing, but this just did not do it for me. I think something about the combination of things she was trying to do, it was just a little bit too much. And it just wasn't, none of it was really like meshing very well. So that's why it was a disappointment for me. So now we're kind of circling back to the beginning of the year. I didn't talk about this book at the beginning of the year because of the St. Martin's Press boycott that was going on. I'm not gonna go so far as to say that it's over now, because I have no idea what's going on with that. I haven't heard anything about the boycott in a couple months now. But I will go ahead and mention this book to you because it was one of my major disappointments of the year. And that book is Wayward by Emilia Clarke. This was on several best books of 2023 lists, and that's why I read it for that video. I really did not like this book. The writing was fine. It wasn't anything special. It wasn't anything like that really stood out to me. What I really disliked the most about this book is the way the plot relies on women being abused and in disadvantaged positions and having babies to like deliver the plot and the significance to the story. And I just really didn't like the way that was handled. And all of the women they like literally their lives revolved around having babies and being sexual beings, or like being taken advantage of by a man. And that just was not what I thought the story was going to be about at all. It was supposed to be about witchy women, you know, empowering each other through like their stories being connected throughout generations. And that was just completely lost to the amount of like grief and trauma that was happening in the book. And I just really didn't enjoy that. So yeah, wayward. Then The Fury. This book was, there are 3 books on this list that were bad. And this is one of those. This book was super disappointing. I was really excited to read it. It was hyped up at the beginning of the year. I love the cover of it. I enjoyed The Silent Patient. It's not one of my favorite books of all time, but I did think it was twisty and the writing was good. They're decent in that book, at least. And the narration was good. The audiobook was good. The Fury, not the case. It was way too meta for my taste. We had a narrator that was just kind of like, I've talked about this book before on my channel. The narrator was just kind of like, well, you know, I'm the one who's telling this story and you don't know if you can believe me or not because I'm unreliable. And it was just like this whole thing. And it was just a little bit overkill, over the top. I don't even remember what happened in this book. It just wasn't like, the pacing wasn't good enough to like carry the story, because what happened was pretty predictable. And it was just kind of overscored by what the narrator was trying to do. And it did not work for me. And I know it didn't work for a lot of other people, so The Fury. Tender is the Flesh was disappointing for me. This one I was really looking forward to because a lot of creators that I really love this book. And I just found it to be upsetting, and it just really didn't like it just made me feel icky, and not in a good way, like not in a like, oh wow, this was so well written, it's so haunting way. It was just like, ugh, I don't really want to think about that ever again. And that just disappointed me, you know, because a lot of people say that this is on like the top horror list of, you know, books that are out, I guess, or like really well written books, or it's just a very popular book, right? I don't want to give too much away about why I think this book is gross, but it just, I don't know, the plot and the writing didn't give me enough to be like, yeah, this is a good book, you know. It was just okay, and then it was also really gross. So yeah. 7 Days in June. I hate to be that person. I just didn't really like this book. I thought the writing was good. It was readable. It was like entertaining. However, I am not the target audience for this book, first of all. Second of all, I found that the relationship between the 2 main characters, who I can't even remember their names right now, I thought it was kind of toxic. Because yeah, they have that connection from when they were teenagers to now, but when they were teenagers, it was a very toxic relationship, and that never really got addressed. Like, I mean, they found love, and that's fine, but and they both grew as people, but there's no evidence to me that shows that their relationship is not going to continue to be toxic. Because in my personal experience, once you have a toxic relationship with somebody, if you're not constantly working on specifically that relationship with that person, it's going to go right back to being toxic. So that was my fear for them. And that's why I think I gave it 3 stars because I enjoyed it, but it just was not a like 5-star romance for me like a lot of other people see it. Okay, Our Missing Hearts by Celeste Ng. This was disappointing for me because I really loved her previous 2 books that I read when I was in high school, and this one was just like so different from them. It was kind of like a dystopian family saga type of thing, but I just didn't really connect to any of the characters in the dystopian world. Like, the only thing that really made it make sense for me was her author's note at the end of the book, where she kind of explained what her inspiration was and why she wrote the book. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah. But the book didn't explain that to me, and I cannot give it a high rating because it was not able to do that for me. So that was disappointing, but I still love Celeste Ng, and I probably need to reread her other stuff. Okay, another bad book, Twisted Love. I have talked about this on my channel already, so we don't need to rehash it too much, but this book was bad, okay? The writing was bad, the plot was bad, the characters are bad. Alex, I'm looking at you. Yeah, this book was not good. I will not be reading any more in the series, and that is that, okay? This type of romance is not for me, okay? We have come to that conclusion. Dragon Fruit. This was disappointing to me because I was really excited about this book. I thought the premise was really interesting. The cover is great. And this one, for whatever reason, I just could not make sense of anything that was happening in my brain. The words were being told to me, and I was like, okay, yeah. So this is happening. The kingdom is going through this, and she's trying to, like, she's been estranged, and then we're gonna, like, save the kingdom, whatever. But it just didn't, none of it made any sense to me. None of the pieces fit together for me. I felt so disconnected from the characters. I do not know why. I don't know what happened. My experience reading this book was not good. I listened to it on audiobook, so take that as you will with a grain of salt. I probably should have read it, but something about it just did not work for me. And I'm upset about that. Another one I'm kind of upset about, How to End a Love Story. This one was super popular this year, and I understand that a lot of people really loved this book, and I just did not. Like, again, this was another case where I found that the relationship between the two characters was not very healthy, and they never really, like, talked about their feelings in a grown-up way. And also the connection, like, this dude killed her sister. And then she's like, this is not a spoiler, by the way. We already know this. We already know this, right? On the back of the book. I don't know. I mean, the writing, there were certain moments in the writing that I appreciated, for sure. I just don't really think a romance was, like, the way for this author to go. Maybe a literary fiction would have worked a little bit better, where we would examine the relationship in a deeper way, but a rom-com was not the way to go for me. Pure Color. This one, I can't be surprised that I was a little bit disappointed with this book. It was just weird, like, a little bit too weird. I enjoy a weird book. I thought I was gonna enjoy this. We started talking about the earth doing some really violating things, and it lost me there. I don't even know if I finished this book. I think I did, because I marked it as finished, but I don't really remember what this was supposed to be about. It was a little bit too experimental for my taste, and a little bit too weird. And I can't believe I'm saying this on my channel, but yeah, maybe I'll need to revisit this later when I'm a little bit more, like, prefrontal cortex has loaded more, but, you know, that's what I think for now. Blood of Hercules. This book was the third book that I thought was bad. This book was bad. Do not read this book. It was bad. The writing was bad. It was Wattpad. It was not edited. It was like almost laughably bad. Like, the reason I finished the book was because I just wanted to know what happened, because it was so bad, you know? There is, like, reverse harem going on in a, like, very, I don't know. None of the characters made any sense. The main character was, like, her inner monologue was just, oh my god, it was it was just hilariously bad. Like, she would say some things to herself and, like, make comments about situations. That was probably the reason why I kept reading, because I thought it was so funny, but it was just not good. And the plot was like, where did it go? We don't know. We don't know where I went. I don't know anything. So yeah. Okay. We got a novel love story. I was disappointed by this book because I loved The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. I liked The Dead Romantics. This one just did not hit for me. I can remember a few things about this book. I thought it was a decent read. It did not deliver the same level of magic that The 7 Year Slip did, and I just found it disappointing in that way. And also that I just didn't really care much about the romance. I wanted to know more about how she ended up where she was, and we never really got that. Like, Ashley Possum's books do not explain the magic that's going on, and so I just felt a little bit like, ugh, man, that didn't work. It didn't work. So yeah, that was disappointing because I really wanted to love it. Finally, we have A Fire in the Sky. This one was kind of an impulse read for me, I'm not gonna lie. I thought it was gonna be interesting because I really enjoyed some dragon books this year, and I don't even know what happened in this book. I can't say that because it's a spoiler. So, yeah, I don't know. The characters did not impress me. The world building did not impress me. The plot did not impress me. It didn't really, it took a while for me to get through. There was a lot of dialogue going on and not a lot of showing. And I just, yeah. I don't know. I mean, I didn't have high expectations for the book, but it did disappoint me, so yeah. Now I want to go through my favorite books of the year. Again, I'm not gonna go super duper duper deep into this. If you want to hear more, I'm happy to have a conversation with you in the comments about it. I just don't want this video to be 1,000,000 hours long because nobody's gonna watch it, so yeah. But now we're gonna talk about my favorite books, okay? I picked 24 books because I think I said earlier in the video, I had a top 10 and there were some more books that I feel like I wanted to mention, and so we came up with 24 books for 2024. So I'm excited about this list. I think it's really good, and I have talked about some of these books on my channel before, so like I said, I'm not going to go super into depth about them. Most of these are 4 or 5 stars, so I don't think I really need to. I haven't been sharing ratings in this video anyway, so whatever. At number 24, we have Garlic and the Witch. I just loved this graphic novel. I can't really describe to you how it made me feel, but I just loved the story and the illustrations, and it was a perfect read for October, and I highly recommend this. So yeah, it was my favorite graphic novel that I read this year, and I did read quite a few graphic novels. So Garlic and the Witch. Number 23, we have Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer. I really loved this because I thought the insights from Robin Wall Kimmerer were very refreshing and super inspiring and motivating, and I like the way that she brings awareness to Indigenous communities. What does she talk about a lot? It's like the relationship of reciprocity between nature and humans. And she has another book that I just read, The Service Berry, that just came out. It's kind of extrapolating on that a little bit too, in which she's talking about economies of gift economies versus capitalist economies. That was a really good read too. I just really like her insights. I loved her narration. I loved her anecdotes and her stories and how she came to be interested in botany and how she became inspired to write this book, really. So it's a little bit of a memoir, it's a little bit of essays, and it's just really good. I highly recommend. I think everybody should read this book. Okay, Ina Garten, Be Ready When the Luck Happens. I love The Barefoot Contessa. I have grown up watching her on the Food Network. By the way, Food Network is like one of my favorite channels ever. I just love watching the Food Network. Anything that's on there just makes me feel good inside. So The Barefoot Contessa, first of all, I love her style of cooking. It's very simple, clean, good, fresh ingredients. Doesn't take too, I mean, it can be effortful, but it doesn't, it's like just, you know, impressive, and it doesn't take too much. I don't know what I'm trying to say here. I love her show. I love her style of cooking. I think she's a really cool person, and learning about her life in this book was very inspiring. She went from doing I think she was working on nuclear energy policy in the White House to opening up a dream. Well, I don't even know, like she basically opened up this food store and then she created this empire. And it was just a really inspiring story to listen to. I also love audiobooks that are narrated by the author, especially if it's like a celebrity or somebody like that. And I think she did a great job. I really enjoyed hearing her insights about marriage to her partner, Jeffrey. They had a lot of ups and downs in their marriage, and I just find that really refreshing to hear a celebrity talk about. And yeah, I really liked it. So highly recommend if you love Ina Garten. You should read her book. Then we have the Paris novel coming in at number 21 by Ruth Reichl. I really liked this. The beginning of it, I gave this a 4-star only because the beginning, there's like a very traumatic scene at the very beginning of the book that I really don't think was necessary to the story. However, the rest of the book was great. I really enjoyed there was some luscious writing going on. It was very atmospheric. It really transported me to France, and I just really enjoyed getting to be on the journey that this main character was on. And I just love France. So any book about France that is well written and descriptive and delicious and has an interesting story. It was like her being in France, but then she was also going on this kind of side quest, and she learns a lot of things about herself and her family, and it was good. It was really good. I highly recommend. Ruth Reichl is a very prodigious food writer, and I think this is her first novel. Then we have, this is kind of one of the most surprising ones of the year, The Pillars of the Earth by Ken Follett. I talked about this, and this was one of my blind dates with book. Shout out Jennifer for blind dating me a 1,000-page book. But this book was really good. I listened to a lot of it on audio. The audio narration was great. It was just a whole journey. There's literally so much going on. It's set in medieval times. They're trying to build this abbey, or not an abbey, a monastery. And there's just so much drama. Like, you wouldn't even believe how much drama is going on in this book. There's romance, there's death, there's spirituality. It's not like a Christian book. There's a lot about, you know, faith and God and monasteries and stuff, because they're building a monastery, but it's, you know, the time that it was set in. And I just didn't expect that I was gonna love a book about medieval monasteries as much as I loved this one. So good job, Ken Follett, and good job, Jennifer. Thank you for recommending this to me. Then we have The Palace of Arrows by Kara de Robertis. This book was really great. I always love a mythology retelling. There's something about them that make me go feral. And this one was great. It was a retelling about Psyche and Eros, except Eros is female, but she also has the ability to shapeshift. So we have some conversations about Eros's gender, and I found it to be really, really interesting and really great. I recommend this a lot to my queer friends who want to read something that's kind of representative of like the experience of figuring out what's going on with your gender. And honestly, I recommend this to anyone because it's just great. Then we have Old Enough by Haley Jacobson. Again, this is a queer coming of age story. We are following this girl, I think her name's Sid or Sydney, I want to say. I don't know why. I hope that's right. But she goes to college and she is bisexual, and she's figuring out where she belongs, basically. And I really enjoy literary fictions about, you know, like figuring out what somebody is doing and what their experience is. And she has some flings and she has some friendships, and there's this whole thing going on with her sister, or her best friend's brother, and she's like coming to terms with things that have happened to her and what she believes and who she loves, and I just really liked it. And this was a debut novel, and I think Haley Jacobson did a fantastic job. So also another one that I recommend a lot. And then we have Leanne Moriarty, Here One Moment. I always love a Leanne Moriarty. This is probably up there with, what is my favorite book by her? I cannot remember. I don't know, but this is up there. In this one, we follow a bunch of people who are on a flight, and there's this lady who randomly starts standing up and telling people what their age and cause of death is going to be. And then we follow a lot of these people after that flight, and sometimes a little bit previous to that flight. We're kind of following, it's like a an ensemble cast, and Leanne Moriarty does this a lot in her books, and I really love the way she does it and kind of weaves all of the lives together in an unexpected way. I just love her writing, and I love her storytelling, and I thought this one was so entertaining and interesting, and I didn't really want to stop reading it. So yeah, good job, Leanne Moriarty. Love it. Love it. Then we have another kind of surprising one, not really though, but I love this one. It's Tarot for Change by Jessica Dorr. If you cannot tell, I have this massive collection of tarot and oracle cards. I really enjoy tarot and journaling about like reading tarot, and so this book was a really great resource for me to kind of get back into that this year. And what I love so much about this one is that Jessica Dorr is a social worker, and she has a master's degree in social work, and she used to work for a psychology book publishing company. So she knows a lot about different theories of human behavior and different kinds of therapy and all of these different things that tie in to tarot. So she's using this book as a way to explain tarot with a psychology background and through a lens of how can you use this in therapy and how can you use this to make you a better person. And I just love that. I just love it. There are some really, really, really interesting and unique insights I got from this book that I haven't found anywhere else that helped me see the cards in a different way. So if you're looking for a new perspective on tarot, or you enjoy psychology and tarot, I think you should read this book. It is fantastic. Then we have The Hotel Nantucket by Ellen Hildebrand. I read this book in a day. I read this book in an afternoon when I was sick, and I really enjoyed it. It was, again, kind of an ensemble cast. I really tend to enjoy books like that. This is my first Ellen Hildebrand as well, and I think this is a really good one to start off with if you're getting into Ellen Hildebrand. This is also a great beach read. I don't know, I just really, really enjoyed like getting to be inside the hotel and like kind of seeing what's going on. And again, just the storytelling and the ensemble cast I really enjoyed. So yeah, The Hotel Nantucket. Then we have Bright Young Women by Jessica Knoll. This is another one I read at the beginning. There are actually like several books on here that I read at the very beginning of 2024 that stuck with me, and I think that is fantastic. Bright Young Women is one of them. This book, first of all, it's narrated by Sutton Foster, who is, oh my god, I wish she narrated more audiobooks, because I don't think she has narrated very many at all. I think this is one of her only ones. There's other people that narrate it as well, but this is following, I'm sure we know what this book is about. We're following fictionalized events of Ted Bundy's murders in Florida and beyond, and how the women are involved in that and how it affects them, and how they feel about what's going on. And I just loved it, especially at the end when kind of justice is served. I really enjoyed going through the journey with the characters, and there's so much emotion that is conveyed through this story, and so much passion from the main character about what's going on. And I just really enjoyed reading that, especially like listening to it and getting a new perspective on the story. This is so good. It's like, it's so much better than like, it also has a lot to say about true crime and what that says about us as a society, that we're so obsessed with it. And I thought that was a really interesting thing to include in a novel like this, because if you like true crime, you're gonna love this book. And that's such an interesting kind of dichotomy to think about. So Bright Young Woman was so good. I'm really excited to see what else this author has written. On the cover it says that she's written a book called Luckiest Girl Alive. I probably need to read that because I really enjoyed this one. Anyway, Next we have The Kiss Quotient by Helen Huang. This is an older one that has been out for a long time. And I have to say, this is probably up there with one of, it's got to be one of my favorite romance books of all time. I just loved the representation of this book. I also loved the writing. I loved the story. I really, really liked the conversations we were having. And also it was very steamy. It just had a really good balance of all of those things. It was super enjoyable. And just the representation, we have Asian characters, we have autistic characters, we have like, I think she's a mathematician, and there's just a lot of different kind of minorities that are blending together to create this really good, like, different perspective on a romance novel than just, you know, a white bread, white woman, vanilla white woman and a vanilla white man, and they are fake dating or whatever. Like, this is, I think they are fake dating in this book, but I don't know. I really, really, really liked this book. And if you have not read this yet, you need to. It is so good, and I will always recommend it. Next, we got Sociopath by Patrick Gagna. I don't know how to say her last name. Remember. So Patrick is a sociopath, and she wrote a memoir about being a sociopath and her perspective on the world. And I have heard a lot of criticisms about this book of her just being so blunt, and kind of, she's also very privileged, so there's not a whole lot of nuance with that, but we have to put ourselves in perspective here, because Patrick is a sociopath. She's not a very nuanced person, and she explains that in the book, how difficult it is for her to like see things in a way that like the average person does, really. And I mean, I really enjoyed this because I thought it was so refreshing to hear a story from a sociopath about sociopaths, and it just brings a whole different perspective to how you view other people, really, and like how you can never know what's going on in someone else's mind. And I don't know, I thought this was super unique and a very interesting perspective that we need more of. And also, I think it's really admirable that she has a PhD in psychology, and she is working actively to bring more awareness and research to the field of research and what am I saying? She's trying to shed more light on sociopathy, because it's really under-researched, it's super misunderstood, and as a person with a bachelor's degree in psychology that I have studied these things, I really appreciate that. So I really liked this one. And then at number 11, we're getting into the top 10 here. Number 11, we have Wicked by Gregory Maguire. This is actually the last book that I finished in 2024. It took me like a month to read it though, and I was inspired to read it after I watched the Wicked movie, which I loved. I've never seen a musical before, and I was really skeptical about the movie, but I loved it. I have watched it multiple times. Okay, so yeah, the book is, and before I say anything else, the book is incredibly different from the musical and the movie. It is what inspired the musical. The book came first, but I have to say, if you are a fan of the musical or you are under 18, you need to approach cautiously, because this book is like way darker. It's not as weird as a lot of people are like, oh, this book is so weird. No, like, whoa. I mean, it's like definitely not the weirdest thing I've ever read. Anyway, I got interrupted when I started talking about animal orgies, and that's probably for the best, but just read the trigger warnings before you go into this book, and know that it is very well written. It is really interesting. It is entertaining. The characters are hilarious. They're different than the musical characters are, but not too much. The essence is still there, right? This is a whole series as well. I only read the first one. I don't know if I'm going to continue, but I had such a good time with this and I highly recommend it, and that's all I can say. Right. Now we're getting into the top 10 books of 2024. Some of these might surprise you, some of these might not, okay? So at number 10, we have Quicksilver by Callie Hart. I really liked this book. I was not expecting to, because first of all, look at the cover. Second of all, it was super hyped, right? And normally with books that are super hyped, I do not love them, but I do enjoy them. This one, I don't know if I would say I loved it. Well, it is in my top 10. It definitely deserves to be my top 10. I had a great time with this. I found myself enjoying it way more than I thought I was going to, and that's why it's on this list. I'm not going to explain what this book is about because I think everybody knows what most of these books are about, the popular ones at least. And I have to say that I actually really liked the characters, especially Kingfisher. And I really, really liked the world building and like the magic system and the alchemy aspects of it, and like the whole like sword crafting thing that was going on. And I actually really liked the relationship between the main character and Carrie, and I thought they were like really funny together. The beginning of it was a little bit slow, but once we got into Fairy, or wherever it is that they are, I don't remember what that realm is called, but I just thought it was so fun, and I am super excited to see where else we are going. We have at number 9, Worry by Alexandra Tanner. I rated this book 4 stars when I read it, but I cannot get it out of my head because I just enjoyed it so much. This is the type of literary fiction that I absolutely love. Just this unhinged character. She's living with her sister. Her sister is even more unhinged than she is. And it's just this like family dynamic of them living together and navigating life together in New York. And I just loved it. Like the inner monologues, the compulsions that the main characters have, just like the whole like neuroses and being in her mind. It was just so relatable. And also I loved the narration, and I just really thought the writing was great, and I cannot wait to see what Alexandra Tanner continues to do. This is her debut novel, so really good job. Coming in at number 8, probably my favorite fantasy of the year. Actually, it's not my, well, one of my favorite fantasies of the year. Again, a very popular book, When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker. Again, I was not expecting to love this as much as I did, but I thought the male main character in this book, he was a simp, and I loved that. Okay, I love that. I really, really like what's happening with the plot. Okay, I can't tell you what I like about it specifically because it's a spoiler, but I'm so excited for the next book in the series. The dragons are super cool. The magic system was so fun. It's very heavy and immersive, but once you get going, it is just really good. It's almost genius. I don't know. I think Sarah A. Parker is just super creative. I did read one of her other series this year. The other series she has out, To Bleed a Crystal Bloom. That one is intriguing too. I only read the first book. I didn't like it as much as When the Moon Hatched because it doesn't have dragons in it. I was just like really obsessed with dragons for some reason, and I blame that on Fourth Wing, even though Fourth Wing is not on this list, as you can see. But I did have a good time reading the graphic audios of those. So then we have Come and Get It by Kylie Reed. This was another one of the first books that I read this year, and I just really loved this. It's set in a college, and we have a lot of characters who are just like these really vapid college girls, and our main character is an RA, or like a resident assistant. So she lives, or I don't remember what they call her, CA and RA, whatever it is, but she lives in the dorm and like watches over the freshmen. And then she has this thing with a professor, and the professor's doing this thing, like they're all kind of interconnected, right? And there is some major drama that goes on, and some of it is like super like insubstantial, just stupid college girl drama, and some of it is like a little bit crazy. And I just love the way that they converse with each other, and like how they have some really rude awakenings about what life is really like and how their perspectives might be super privileged and they aren't realizing that until it's too late. And I just really liked the conversations that we were having in this book about money and privilege and power and your position in the world and youth and all of these different things. And I loved how satirical it was and the tone in the writing, and it was just so good. It was so good. If you're in college or you have recently been in college or you think you might like this book, I think you should read it. Number 6, we got Shark Heart by, who is this? Emily Havek. This book was really good. It made me close to tears, and I do not cry when I read, which is really weird because I cry pretty much all of the rest of the time. But this book was so good. It was so poetic. It was so touching. The writing was really great. We follow a couple, and they had just got married, and the husband has received a terminal diagnosis that he's turning into a great white shark. So we have this little bit of whimsical, magical realness going on, but the metaphor for that obviously is receiving any terminal diagnosis, you know, of like cancer or something, dementia maybe, or something like that, or like grieving a person. It's also about grieving a person before they die. And that is, I think, a really interesting topic to talk about in this format of this will never happen in real life, but like it does, just in a different way. And I just thought that was so kind of genius. And it was just really, really well written and really touching and fabulous. Number 5, The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I loved this book so much. I listened to it on audiobook. Julia Whalen narrates it. She's a fantastic narrator. I loved it so much, I bought the book after I finished it because I knew immediately that I was going to want to reread it one day. And that is such a huge marker of this book is 5 stars. So I loved it. I just really enjoyed the writing. It was just flowery enough to make me really like salivate. And I think the relationships between the characters, especially like Addie and Luke, was really interesting, especially kind of at the end. And I just thought the writing was so good. And I know I'm gonna read it again one day and just go through and have all of these quotes and cherish them forever. So that was Addie LaRue. Number 4, really loved Little Women. This is another book I read at the very end of 2024. And this was kind of an impulsive read for me, but oh my God, I loved this book. I cannot believe I've not read this before. First of all, this is something that my mom would have absolutely loved to read to us. And I don't know why she didn't, but it was so good. Oh my God, I just really, really enjoyed all of the characters, the story, the anecdotes, the little play, like the playing around that they do. And then when they get a little bit older, the pining and the loss and the grief, like everything is just so beautifully written and felt. And I don't understand how this is a children's book. I really think that this should be like, some libraries don't shelve this in children's, sometimes they shelve it in adult, or it depends on like what edition it is. In my library, we had this in the children's section, and I mean, this is a book for all ages to read. And it was just really good. I don't know what else to say about it. I just loved it. It's a classic for a reason. Now we're getting into the top 3. Everyone, number 3, we have The Honey Witch by Sydney J. Shields. I loved this so much that I also got the beautiful edition of it that I'm going to go get and show to you. This was another one that I picked up at the library and immediately said, I have to own this book. And I got this edition with the beautiful, I think this is from Fairy Loot, yeah, the Fairy Loot edition with the beautiful sprayed edges and the beautiful Hello and Pages. Again, this is one that I know I will probably reread one day. And first of all, I didn't know that this was historical. I thought that it took place in modern day because there's nothing about this book that is like tagged as historical or like marketed as historical. But the setting worked really, that just kind of threw me for a loop when I first started it. But once we got on the island and she like becomes the honey witch, the descriptions and the magic and the atmosphere was just, oh my god, it was so good. And I thought that the romance was really, really tender, and it was realistic, but also like authentic. And I think there is, I saw somebody say that the ending was a little bit rushed, and I do kind of agree with that, but also I just couldn't wait to find out what was happening next, and that didn't really bother me. So I just loved it. I don't know, the bees, the honey, the romance, the setting, the everything, it was just beautiful. So The Honey Witch was my number 3 of the year. Number 2 is The Wedding People. This was narrated by the same narrator as Worry, and I ended up loving both of those books, so I think it has something to do with Helen Laser, who is the narrator. So I'm going to be reading more books narrated by her. I just loved this. First of all, I didn't realize that it was going to be about what it was about. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. I don't want to spoil too much for you. At the beginning of the book. However, it doesn't get sad. It doesn't stay. It has a sad tone in the beginning. It does not stay that way. It starts to become kind of wacky and funny when the bride meets the main character, and then they like start to have this relationship, and then there's like the relationship between the main character and like the rest of the bridal party, and I just thought it was so funny. I really always enjoy books about weddings, especially now that I'm getting married. I think that is, it's fun to read about weddings and weddings going wrong and stuff like that. It's just entertaining and also a lesson for me. So, yeah, I really enjoyed the writing in this one. Just this, like, everything about it worked so well for me together. I just remember reading it and being like, yeah, this is 5 stars. I just really love it. And I couldn't get enough of it. I think I finished it pretty quickly. I was buddy reading this with my friend Nia, and I was just like, we were talking about it together, and I felt bad about finishing it before she did, but I just loved it. So yeah, The Wedding People. My number 1 favorite book of the year of 2024 was Tom Lake by Ann Patchett. This book did not come out in 2024. It was a 2023 release that I read for my best books of 2023. And I just absolutely adored it. This is a book that I have been thinking about all year. I have been recommending all year. Meryl Streep. If you have not listened to the audiobook of this book, please stop what you're doing and go get it and listen to it, and then come back to me and we can gush about how good it was. I just loved, I love Meryl Streep. I loved the narration. I love Ann Patchett's writing. I just love everything about this book. The romance, the realism of it, the family relationship, the way it was described, the way we got to reflect on the main character's life with her daughters. It was just really wholesome and entertaining and touching. It didn't make me feel like, I thought I was reliving it. I didn't even feel like I was listening or reading a book at all. And I just love when I can get lost in a book like that and appreciate it so much and just be able to be like, oh, that book was so good. I wish I could reread it for the first time again. And that is what this book made me feel. So yeah, okay. Those are my top 24 books of 2024. Please let me know if you disagree, if you agree, what your top books of 2024 were. I'm so curious to know. And again, like I said, if you want me to talk a little bit more about any of these books, just shoot me a comment and I will be happy to do that. So I want to talk very quickly about my goals for 2025. I have a few of them. Not as many as I did last year. I don't have a list or anything. I'm gonna try to, well, I think my biggest goal for 2025 is just to mood read as much as I can and not hold myself to any like standard or schedule or stress myself out about reading, because that is the opposite of what I am trying to do here, you know? I set my Goodreads goal to be 52 books because that is 1 book a week, and I think that is super realistic. If I go over that goal, that's amazing, but I'm not going to set my goal any higher than 52 because I have no idea what kind of time I'm gonna have this year. I'm planning a wedding, I'm starting grad school, I'm starting a new job. I really don't know like anything. So I'm just going to, you know, try to do a book a week. And so far I've read 7 books, so I don't think I'm gonna have trouble hitting that goal, but I don't want to stress myself out about it. I want to DNF more. Like I said earlier, I just think life is too short to be reading books that you're not super interested in, or you're not like feeling good about, or whatever. It's just too short. There's way too many books to read out there, and I have so many books on my shelf. It's just not worth it to be reading something that I'm not interested in. Again, another goal is to read. This is not like a hard goal because, again, I love the library and I love audiobooks, but I do have a lot of books. These are like my top priority books right here, and then I have more books on my shelf over there that I own that I really want to get to. But I have set a goal for myself to read as many of the physical books that I have, and one way I'm going to be helping myself by doing that is by not buying any more books until after my birthday. Okay, that is in July, so I do have time still to this year buy and read books that are coming out this year that I'm super excited about, like Calabasas, Bury Your Bones in Midnight Soil, What Happens in Amsterdam, like some of those books that I'm really excited about. But until then, I need to get through what I already have, and I can also check those books out from the library if I want to, but I cannot buy them. So there you go. And then I think for my last one, I really want to try to do at least 1 YouTube video a month. This is a little bit of a softer goal than the rest of my goals are, just because like I said, I don't know what my year is gonna look like. I don't know what my schedule is gonna look like yet, but I do want to continue to invest in my space, and you know, I don't want to just leave my channel hanging. I really enjoy doing this. So yeah, those are some of my goals. I also really want to start a book club. I don't know what that's gonna look like. I might do a library book club depending on what role I'm in working at a library, or just do a book club with my friends. I did try to start one earlier, but it just didn't really work out. But I would love to have my own book club. If you are interested in joining a book club with me, just leave me a comment and maybe I'll start a Discord server someday. I would love that. I would love to get to the place on my YouTube channel where I can have like a Discord or a community where we can talk about stuff. Not necessarily Patreon. I don't really think I need one of those. That's a whole other video that we could talk about that. But anyway, that is it for today's video. I'm at 1 hour and 18 minutes recording this, so hopefully this video is not 1 hour and 18 minutes. Okay, I'm gonna try to make it under 1 hour for you guys. But we covered a lot of ground in this video, and that was my goal, to get you all kind of caught up on what was going on in Caroland recently. So yeah, I'm excited about this year. I can't wait to share my plans and my reads and some fun moments with you guys this year, and I'm just happy to be back and happy to be here. Thank you so much for being here. If you have watched all the way to the end of this video, I appreciate it so much. And I can't